Welcome to this webinar series, which is a part of the Investor Education and Awareness Initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund in association with Outlook Money. The topic of today's discussion is children, the ABC of money, how to guide children. Ask any parent, and most of the panelists today are parents, and one of the most important goals and one that's closest to their hearts is saving and investing for the future of their children. But the question is investing enough for the future? Future. So we think it's equally important to invest in inculcating the right financial habits in children to ensure they themselves can handle their financial future with ease. I am Nidhi Sinha, editor Outlook Money, and that's why we'll discuss today how you can inculcate financial habits in your children and how to overcome the challenges that you may come across on the way. I have a panel of 3 experts today to discuss this topic. I would like to welcome Mr. K.S. Rao, who's the head of Investor Education and Distribution Development at Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC. Mr. Rao has been striving to take financial literacy and investor education to various demographic segments across geographies. We also have with us Mr. Amit Trivedi, who is an author, speaker, blogger, and trainer, and has more than 2 decades of experience in the capital markets. Our third panelist is Ms. Shweta Jain, a certified financial planner with over 15 years of experience, and she's also the founder of her company Investography Private Limited. So coming to the topic, let me start with you, Mr. Rao. Just before starting this panel, we were discussing about children and the role that parents can play in how children shape up. So what do you think, how early should parents begin teaching children about money, and what are the basic things that they can focus on?
Good morning, Nidhi ji. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a great honor to be between Amit ji and Shweta ji, and it's always good to be among the learned people. I mean, where we can learn a lot. Probably when coming to the topic, parents teaching money, and whenever we meet any parent on the financial literacy, the first question they will ask is, how do I empower my children? I mean, what is that we can do? And we used to do this program called My First Finance Lessons. This is for the school students. And this is a time when we engage with the parents. Their biggest concern is how to inculcate those values and habits, what you said. And the best way to do it every time, anything with the children is at the very engaged. I mean, it's nowadays we start blaming this could have been in a curriculum and it is not there. This could have been taught at schools. Probably the parents are the best teachers to teach anything, and not only the value of money, but even the values. And it's a foundation which starts from there. And financial literacy and money value, which can come to them as a you can create this a context and a concept. Your conversations can come as about the money, and I have seen children, a few of my cousins' children who are coming from abroad, and they understand their value of money is very different from my other cousins' children who are here, and they understand. The first thing we can teach is from where the money will come to you. I mean, how that can happen, and very at a young age. It could be at a preschool, it could be at a play school, or it could be around kindergarten. If we can keep these money conversations alive, and we can teach them about earnings, how the money where it is coming, what kind of savings, how the spending, and then that will give you that can create a context value for the money, and how the parents are getting that money. It's like I have seen one of my nephews was talking about money comes from ATM. When I asked the question where money comes, but who has to put that money in the ATM? Then how the parent, the mother and father who worked, and how that money was there. And when we were young, I mean, those days the good part for us was there used to be a concept called piggy bank, and some of these nationalized banks used to present there is a kids savings bank account, and you add that piggy bank, and anybody comes home, they give some money to you, or during your birthday you get some gifts. We all go and used to save that money in that piggy bank. And probably the best way to start for the teaching the children is we can re-establish how that piggy bank can come. Then that will give you, whenever you are getting some money, there is a piggy bank where it will teaches you how you need to save that money. And once you open that piggy bank, then you have an option what to do, whether you want to spend, whether you want to give. Then again, you can create that kind of a informal context, what you need to do. And you are teaching the budgeting around it. okay, this piggy bank over 6 months time, I got this kind of money, then what I need to do with that money. Then there we are also teaching the little bit of financial literacy in a very different way. We can teach about the context of the coins we are putting there, and rupee notes, the currency, or it could be, if your uncle or aunt coming from abroad, then they gives in a different currency. Then I can
Right.
talk about foreign exchange. This is a dollar bill, this is a pound bill. Then how you need to look at it. And in the process, we can also create that delayed gratification indirectly. I mean, it's effectively, I would like to say, parents should be the first teachers, Pradham Guru, and then you can have a context, how you can contextualize on teaching about the money, and don't make as a formal and sit on this table and read. Even like I remember at my place. I mean, this was a school which is a vernacular. We were asked to in those days paint about various currencies. I mean, how that 1 rupee bill will look you, and how that 20 paisa coin looks at. Probably that is the way where we can teach the children. I think various ways to look at before they get into the formal education. But as they grow up, then you can change the methodology of teaching, and it could be a fun games, and you have lot now. I mean, and I mean, we do this game called financial games on Go, and you can do that. I mean, these games are available online now.
Right. So, yeah, Mr. Rao said that, it's important to come up with innovative ways to teach children. And in fact, I was thinking about that, Mr. Trivedi. I'll come to you next. What really works with children is simply briefing them about the concepts, because that can become boring for them sometimes. Is that enough, or there are other innovative ways to do it? Could you give some examples?
So, there's this beautiful saying, and I believe it is from Benjamin Franklin. It
Hmm.
says, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. And I think that's what Rao sir was also mentioning. A lot of times in many investor seminars or webinars, parents have asked this question, what is the right age to teach money to the children? And my answer to them is, did this question ever cross your mind? What is the right age to take your children to a shop or a mall or, a movie theater? Because in both the cases, whether it is taking somebody to bank, whether talking about insurance and investment or spending money, it all involves money. So if that's the case, I think some of the things that I have seen some of the parents doing rightly. Uh, so even at a young age, send the child to the nearby shop, give the child some money and say, just go and buy whatever you want. I mean, so let's say somebody wants a packet of chips, for example. Give the money to the kid, and obviously, as a parent, you know the price, so give some extra money. Let the children go there, collect the balance amount, and come back and tell you this is what I spent. You know, while this may look like a very mundane task for parents because we do it on a day-to-day basis, the child feels empowered.
Right.
So, my father or my mother trust me with money. Oh, that's a big feeling. Otherwise, like what Rao sir was mentioning, that's what happens. Uh, in one case, one lady, the kid was, wanted some toys or something. The mother said, "Beta, I don't have money right now." She said, "No problem. We'll go to the shop and take money because you find everything in the shop, right? You go and buy everything from the shop. You can't buy money from the shop, but that has to be taught." And so that's one thing. A lot of games can also be tried. Uh, our good friend and financial planner Gaurav Mashwala used to play this game with his daughter. He had a transparent jar, and he called it a chocolate bank for his daughter.
Hmm.
So whenever any guest came home with a chocolate, he would say, "Put that in the chocolate bank, and once a week you can open, and whatever number of chocolates that you want to eat on that day you can eat."
Hmm.
Now there are two things. Number one, there is a delayed gratification, even if it is for a day or two. You are not consuming it now; you are keeping it for tomorrow. That's number one. Number two, it was a transparent jar. Unlike most of the piggy banks that I've seen in my childhood, those were not transparent. So I don't know how much money is inside until I broke that piggy bank. In this case, this was a transparent jar. So the moment you put a chocolate inside, the level goes up. And when you visually see that happening, you feel good. Okay, I got so many chocolates. And the moment you take a chocolate out, the level goes down. So the kid would say, no, no, let it be there. I don't want it. And once the jar is filled, he would say, now take out all the chocolates. Let's no, share across your friends. And instead, I'll give you a gift. Okay, so that's what the parent does. Now, multiple lessons that can be taught. The third thing that can be done is involve children in various conversations, and eventually the role of money has to be understood. Shweta has written this beautiful book called "By Conversations with Money," and there are some lovely examples in that book also. I mean, it's a worth a read, beautifully written. I'm referring to some conversations that I had with my son. He was only 8 years when one of the days, so he'd gone to play cricket and I went to pick him up. He said, Papa, come with me, I want to show you something. I said, okay, what is it? He took me somewhere and there was a Jaguar car parked in the garage. I said, see, that's a Jaguar. I said, wonderful. So what do we do? And I'm not in cars, so I don't understand cars much. He said, that's a Jaguar. I said, wonderful. I want one. Now, at 8, he wants Jaguar. I don't drive car. I mean, today I use public transport. I don't even use a car, right? But he wants a car. I can't tell him that, no, 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 that's out of reach. That's not the right approach according to me. So what I said is, Beta, who do you want it for? He said, for me, of course. Wonderful. You can drive at 18. You've got 10 years to go. Let's plan out. At 18, we'll buy your car. Incidentally, it's just about to complete 18 and I don't still don't have budget for buying a Jaguar. That's a different matter altogether. But what it taught me was, this is how you can teach a child to set goals. And once the goal is set, now work backwards. So I said, okay, at 18. So I said, now you need to start saving money to buy your Jaguar.
Right.
Right. So one of the days he tells me, Papa, when I go to the shop, there were 2 packs of orange juice. One's price was 12 rupees, the other was 15 rupees. And I picked up the 12 rupee wala. I said, so? He said, I saved 3 rupees. I said, what for? No, I have to buy the Jaguar.
That's
yeah, but that's a cute child kind of a thing. But at 8 or 9 or 10, I think that first lesson was taught.
right.
And that's how you engage children in these discussions. And at a particular age, I don't know what is that proper age, but at a particular age, show them your financial statements. There is nothing to hide. And that's where I like Gaurav's idea of that transparent piggy bank. The transparency is very, very important, especially within the family. So if I open up my financial statements in front of my children, they know the reality. In fact, that's exactly what I did when my daughter went to college. I showed her how much fees I was paying for her education versus my net worth statement. I said, now these are my investments, and none of the investments, none of the mutual fund schemes, I put as much money that I'm putting for your education. So it is your responsibility to ensure that this investment that I'm putting in your education yields decent returns. So you have that conversation, trust the children, and I strongly believe that next generation is smarter than our generation. And if that's the case, I've got to trust their intelligence and instinct.
Absolutely. So trust is a major factor, and which also brings me to a very another very relevant point is that peer pressure is a reality now. Shweta, you have a teenager son, and you would know how it works. As in, not necessarily that your son brings in there, but in that generation we end up interacting with a lot of kids, and we kind of see the similar example that Mr. Trivedi gave, that you see a fancy car, your classmate using a fancy car or being dropped by a fancy car or something else, people going for junk food all the time or things like that. So how does one deal with that? Because there is a certain anxiety that kids also have. This peer pressure creates among kids, and still they have to be navigated towards a path that maybe maybe more useful for them. So how do you navigate children on the right path amid this rising peer pressure that we see in the society?
Hi, Nidhi. Thanks for having me here. And I think this is a very relevant question, peer pressure, and it's even more so in this era of social media. So we are seeing the amount of pressure on kids that is coming from everywhere, right? From the parents, from peers, we our expectations of them, and this generation, and I don't know how many people would agree with me, but this generation is much more conscious about what they're doing. They're much more caring, they're much more sensitive, and they're open about their feelings to quite a big extent, versus our own teenage years when I compare, because I think somewhere we lack that courage or that forum where we could be as open as them. So I think that one thing, we're raising very children that are very smart, and with the internet, at least our time, knowledge was power, right? Just knowing information was power. Today information isn't power, it's available at your fingertips, right? But how to use it, where to take that from, what to do about it, I think that's really really important. And I think Amit raised a very important point of trust. So I think trust and transparency is something that if we provide our children, peer pressure sort of comes down to a little bit of an extent, maybe not too much, but a little bit. We have to also make sure that our kids, while peer pressure, we term it as negative, a lot of times it's negative. It isn't necessarily negative, right? It could be a positive peer pressure as well. So, for example, I have my son's friends talking to me about investments, saying, "Auntie, okay, where can I open the account? I know Ishan invests, so how can I invest also? Can you start my portfolio?" And their parents talk to me as well, saying, "Okay, he wants to do this. How can we do this for him?" So it can be positive as well. I think one thing we definitely should avoid doing is saying, everything is delayed gratification, right? There are some things that you can only enjoy today. So as far as that balance is maintained, between today and tomorrow, and I'm all about balance, because you can't just keep everything, postponing everything for tomorrow, saying tomorrow we'll buy a Jaguar, but today I will not even buy you a cycle, because I have to buy that Jaguar tomorrow. So that balance has to be there, saying, of course, see, you can buy this cycle today. The choice could be between one brand or the other, and the balance we can save, for example. But saying that, I will not buy your cycle because your eye is on the Jaguar. Because as parents, sometimes I think we go extremes, either spend too much or too little. So then kids find, if you're holding them back too much, then whenever they get that little bit of freedom, they're going to just go all out, right? So whether it's in terms of social media, screen time, whatever it is, I was sort of balancing, okay, half an hour screen time is fine on a school day, but you can't go overboard, on the weekend, saying, okay, all weekend you're just sitting and seeing, because weekday I didn't let you watch. So I think that balance is really important. And when you give your children that trust and that transparency, I think a lot of that peer pressure sort of comes down, because they have that forum to talk about it. They have that forum to talk to you, saying, Mama, see, Lamborghini is there. So why can't, when can we get? I'm like, why do we want? Like, do we want one? First, think about, do we want one? It's like, nah, Indian roads are not for it. It could be any conversation, and not conversations which are just serious, right? So I started teaching Ishan about money, I think, right from when he could read a little bit, or even just put tick mark. We would take grocery list, and I would take him to the shop, and he would literally like mark out things that we were buying, right? So it also gave him that idea of things that we are buying off the list, saying, why is mama just picking up things at the counter? I'm giving into temptation at that time. Why are we buying candies when we didn't have candies on our list? So he would actually stop me, saying, this is not on our list, do not buy it. And I was like, this is for you, this candy is for you. It's like, no, I do not want it, it's not on our list. So it could be from as simple things as that. And I think age appropriate activities that we do with them, or conversations that we do with them, is very important. So like Amit very rightly said, he shared his say net worth statement with the fees with his daughter at a certain age. you can't do that to the child when he's like 6 years old, right? Saying, okay, this is my net worth, this is the amount of fees that I'm paying for you. But there is an age to do that. Say there's at 18, 20, 21, whatever age that you decide. And as a family, I think that empowers them. And when you are empowered, everything else sort of doesn't pull you down. It only takes you higher because you are very clear about your priorities, and you're like, he comes in, he wears a 25,000 watch. That's okay. I don't even want, I don't even like it. It's so Ishan is like, it's so gory, it's so flashy. I don't even like it. And he's just yapping, saying this is a 25,000 rupees watch that he's wearing to school. Mama, is that even smart? I'm like, absolutely right, it's not smart. So, these are the kind of conversations you can have. And as parents, we want to be friends with them. I'm not sure friend is the right word, but just make sure that they come to you with anything that is important to them, positive or negative. And I think we'll be fine. The kids today are really smart.
Definitely, Shweta, you have a smart kid from what I can hear and grasp, definitely. But of course, different parents have different kinds of challenges, and there are different kinds of upbringings and different kinds of social pressures that, are exerted on different sets of children and parents. So, Mr. Trivedi, we've been talking about older children now, both Shweta and you. You have given the example of your daughter. But as we've talked about, Mr. Rao started about how money conversations that Mr. Rao and Shweta both have highlighted, and innovative ways, fun games that you also talked about. But as children grow older, you talked about transparency and trust, of course. And what are the other things that you can talk with an older kids to kind of take that conversation that you may have been making since childhood forward?
I think there's a very important question. And let me also add to what Shweta was mentioning. She brought out some amazingly good points. Uh, while you mentioned that different parents have different challenges, the way I interpreted what Shweta was mentioning is Ishan wouldn't listen. Ishan would have observed Shweta and her husband. So how they behaved. So let's take, for example, if there is something off the list, why would Ishan stop Shweta from doing it? Because he sees that normally that's how my parents would have behaved. While conversations are important and required, that openness and transparency is required. And yes, I mean, Shweta can be friendly with Ishan. My kids don't even want to be friends with me. I'm too old for so okay. But having said that, is there that openness? Are they ready to come and tell me that, Papa, you are wrong, or Papa, this is what I want, or this is where I'm stuck? Can they come and tell me that thing? So that's really where am I allowing them that space? And that starts right in the beginning. So over a period of time, when we go, then they would start realizing that, yeah, money conversations are fine. Because when I grew up in our household, there were hardly any conversations about money. So when I'm not seeing my parents talking about money, I would feel that, no, it's not a subject that normally we talk about. It's not a subject that, no, everybody should be involved. Whereas, if I start behaving in that manner, that, okay, if it's money, leave it to me, you don't worry. Right? Then, if something goes wrong, then that would be a major shock for them. On the other hand, if you start involving them, and right from the young age, when a 20 rupee note is given to them to buy an 18 rupee thing, and the kid has to come back and give me 2 rupees back, I think that's where the experiential learning would be very important. At around 12, 13, 14, when the kid has understood a little bit of arithmetic and maybe a little exposure to banking in the mathematics class, take the child to a bank, ask the child to fill up a deposit slip and deposit a check in the bank, or write a check. And I had a great advantage because my daughter has beautiful handwriting and mine is illegible. So anyway, if I write a check, the bank will not honor it. So I had that advantage. I would make her write those checks. Right? The moment you make the child write those checks, you can start teaching them, okay, you don't write anything on that strip at the bottom. The amount in words and numbers should match. You cross it and make it an account pay check. So why account pay, Papa? Okay, so you got an opportunity to talk. So involve them and generate those curiosities. But at an older age, let's now come to that. Allow them to make mistakes. And in my case, we had a reasonably costly mistake. What do you do after that? The mistake has happened, and the child comes and at that time it's the senior teenager, not even a child, and comes and says, "I messed up. I've lost this much money." So that was one particular concert that my daughter wanted to go, and she was defrauded.
Okay.
Yeah. Now the money is gone. What do you do in that case? I had the option of scolding her. You acted irresponsibly. Right? But I don't think that's the right option, because in that case, I've trusted her and she trusted somebody else. Something wrong has happened. Okay, I'm with you. Both of us have jointly made this mistake. Let us see if we can recover some part of the money or all of it. Let's put in that effort. We could eventually get some, around 15-20% of the money back. But you be with the child that, okay, even if you make a mistake, I'm still with you. My relation with you does not change. I'm your father. Okay, that relation is not going to change. And that's something that I learned. I learned this from my parents. I learned this from my grandparents. They would say, okay, if something has gone wrong, don't worry, we are with you. So allow them to make those mistakes, even with money. Because at some point in time, the interpretation of those experiences is what the child takes home. And we've seen that two siblings from the same family went through the same trauma, but both probably would have acted differently over the years. Because it was not the experience alone, it was their interpretation of that experience. So let's say family incurred losses. One child started spending recklessly, the other became overcautious and was not even willing to take any risk on the investments at all. Okay, so we have seen those kind of divergent behavior. It's about that feedback loop, about that experience that one takes, about the interpretation. Can I help the child take a better view, closer to 360? I mean, I don't know whether I can ever take a 360 view of any situation, because there's never enough information available. But at least instead of looking at only one side, can I teach the child to take multiple perspectives and then keep connecting those lessons to money-related decisions? Another example, my daughter, when she was going to the college, we actually went to a bank and explored taking an education loan. And finally, I said, we don't need this loan because I've already saved money for your education. We'll pay out of that. Right? So she went through that process. She knows what all is involved, what kind of documents. She got frustrated a couple of times. But if it was her education, she's got to get involved in the process and go through that. I can't simply go to the bank and take a loan and say, you enjoy now. No, you got to see what I go through to fund your education. And it's not that I just want to showcase that I go through a lot of troubles, but this is what life is all about.
Right.
And when you involve them, take the child along. And as I said, I mean, net worth statement is shared. All my investments, insurance policies, everything is known to my son, my daughter, and my wife. Earlier also we've discussed the family should know. But they know. They know all the passwords, including my net banking passwords. So at any point in time, if they want, I don't even know if they remember anything or not. But they know that Papa trusts us and he tells us everything.
Right. So inculcating financial responsibility is what I'm getting from you, the point, and that is very important. And perhaps one of the ways to inculcate that financial responsibility is by giving them pocket money right from an early age. So, Mr. Rao, could you talk about that? About what role can the conversations and fun games and all of that have a role, but what role can these experiential things that Mr. Trivedi and Shweta have been talking about in the form of pocket money can have?
In fact, Nidhi, I mean, what both of them are talking about, I mean, when Shweta spoke, Amit was talking about the money inculcate and involving, and pocket money could be the great way to involve the children. And one, you're giving something, it's an allowance, and it's a monthly allowance which you are giving. I mean, how you can use that allowance just giving, or it can become a tool for you. And as you rightly put it, this can give the responsibility for them. They are responsible for the money they are getting given and how much we are giving. And then there are limitations to it. We can also talk about those limitations. Like one, the parents, if they have surplus, they may give little more. The parents who are living within the means, they may give little less. Then the value and how much money my parents can afford and what they can't afford. Then I can go back and rework. This is the money within which I need to manage. I was reading this book about Adi Godrej on his biography, and he said the best part of my business success and the budgeting is not which I learned from the business school, but the best part I learned is my father used to give me the limited budget. Within that, I need to manage. I can't ask any question. No 1 rupee extra is permitted. No overdraft, and I need to manage within that. Till the month of 25th, I will ensure I can conserve, and I release after 26th to 30th. This is the freedom I have to spend. That's a learning when such a big personality when he talks about. I think each of us can do that. What it gives is it gives you a discipline, and it also gives you. I mean, you are saving something to spend tomorrow. Probably, save for today for smile for tomorrow kind of story, which can come from this story which I read about him. And it also gives you some kind of a prioritization for the children, what to spend, what not to spend, where it should not go to overdraft. And some of the children, when we see this, when we do these workshops, my first finance lessons, they have a habit, if father is giving the pocket money, they go to mother at the end of, when the money is get exhausted, and that is the time. Probably that is also an art of negotiating, right? Go with the mother and ask. I mean, this is also very much required while you are managing your money. And it also gives an habit. I mean, then that habit is inculcated from the early stage of the pocket money, and it also gives an accountability. There is one more pocket I can look at on the pocket money. If can become a tool, and probably if I can look, if I'm giving a children to save for tomorrow, and say if the pocket money is X amount, say for example it's a 5,000 rupees. If I can increase the pocket money by another $1,000, and this 1,000 rupees you are investing into a mutual fund. I am a mutual fund guy. Let me talk about that. I mean, it's an SIP, and this 1,000 rupees can go for your future. Probably somebody I call nowadays people every 3 years they want to buy a mobile. Can this be a mobile replacement fund? And then there is an SIP of $1,000, and when $1,000 comes, and then how the art of investing. Then when you come the mutual fund, we send a statement of account. I can sit with a child and I can tell this is the units allotted to you. At the initial stage, when you are younger stage, you can restrict there. But as you go, the child will come back. Last month, I got allotted some 20 units. This time, I allotted 18. These mutual fund guys have done something wrong. They have not given money exact units to me. Then I can narrate the story, how that net asset value, what mutual funds can work. And little later part, where the mutual fund invests, they send a portfolio. I will even take the child through that portfolio. Means with a simple pocket money, extra $1,000, I can teach how the value that can be invested, how the portfolio is constructed. Later part, how the investment manager invest in that portfolio. Means I can, I can create the future investment manager at home as a pocket money as a tool. And when we call this as an investment is a life skill, and pocket money can be a great tool to get that life skill. And we teach this, we call LIFE as an acronym, living in financial empowerment. And the kid who is managing well can be empowered for doing it right. And kid who is not managing well for 1 month, as Amit said, no, there could be a mistake which I would have done. Then you have 1 day, 1 month, 1 month mistake is fine. But if this mistake continues, that life will become LIFE, life in financial entanglement.
So that's a very interesting perspective on how pocket money itself can be used to inculcate the habit of investments as well, and not just your budgeting, etc., and managing the money, so to say. But while we are talking about budgeting and managing, Shweta, my next question is to you. I'm also hearing that a lot of transparency is needed, which I think is a very fair point. But another that brings me to another thought, that there is this family budgeting also that happens, okay, and especially like Mr. Rao mentioned, that the kid going to the mother at the end of the month, if he's got the pocket money from the father, to negotiate stuff. But what if the child is involved in the family budgeting? Does it make sense? Or the other thought that I have, does it put too much pressure in their life, especially in households where the budgeting has to be tightened in some ways? The all households are not where there is always extra money, or there's always enough to invest and spend on your all your daily needs, or luxuries even. So how does that work?
So I personally think that it's a great way to involve kids in the budgeting exercise of the family. However, information can be shared with them on a age appropriate basis, because we don't want undue pressure on them, especially when you're in a bad patch. Because I won't say that some families are less privileged and some are more. I think everybody sees cycles of having a tight budget versus having luxuries. So I would say start off with smaller items, right? So like grocery lists, shopping within those means, or when you're going shopping, for example, for whatever reason, whether it's a gifting purpose that you want to buy a gift for somebody. Like I would always involve Ishan in shopping, right? And now with my younger one, he's just 3, but I still take him to the store. I make sure that we are paying cash, that he gives cash, and so he knows that he could have put this money in the piggy bank. Sometimes he's like, I want to put this in the piggy bank. I'll keep one note. Like when he's giving 5 notes to somebody, he's like, let me keep one. Like, no, you took so much. So if you have to keep that one note, you have to keep back so many items. So it's just a game for them, and it's just a cute little thing for us, but they're learning so much out of it, right? So for me, budgeting, for example, when Nishan was much younger, it was only trips to the grocery, and only that particular trip. We are not talking about monthly budgets. We are not talking about all of that. We are saying, I have so much money, and I intentionally would use cash. And I still use cash for a lot of these little visits, because it shows that money is not unlimited. When we use cards, somehow the restrictive aspect doesn't come into play, whether it's in their minds or our minds. I spend more on a card as well, versus when I pay in cash. So I think that restrictive aspect comes at that time. So that would be my first step. But today, when he's 13, we are much more open about the monthly budgets, how much is going where, why we are spending so much. So sometimes he does give ideas on, cutting budget. For example, for help, right? So do we need so much? Do we need to give them so much? And then we talk about the other aspect of lesser privilege, right? So in our budget, there is a monthly amount that we donate, right, to people who are less privileged than us. And that's a part of our monthly budget. For me, it's important for Ishan especially to be involved in the amount, because then he knows that this is what you're doing on a regular basis. So in his school also, when there are activities like this, he is among the first to sign up for volunteer activities, for example. The only thing that I keep telling him was that to whom much is given, much is expected. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we uplift others as well, and not just be selfish. So for example, he knows that this is my budget, and so this I could be investing and this could be growing, but we are giving this, and this is what is happening with that. We take them to trips, to the anath ashram, to wherever, wherever we are going regularly, what items they need, all of that. So it's quite open to that extent. We are also open to him about how much we invest for their education, for our future, why it is not the other way around. For example, if we are investing more towards our retirement and not towards their education, why is it that even the home loan, for example, that we have in our name, so he keeps asking, okay, why can't we just pay off the home loan? You have this money and you have this outstanding. He knows what the outstanding is, by the way, and how much interest and how much we're paying. So he's like, why are you keeping it? So then it's a smart conversation for us to talk about compounding. So while this is we are paying 8%, for example, here we are, how much are we earning? So then he sees the portfolio return. There is a portfolio in his name versus his piggy bank, right? So piggy bank, whatever he has, or savings account, whatever he has, he's not seeing that grow. Portfolio is growing. So then his thing is, why have you kept so much money in the bank for me? I want this invested now. Can you invest this regularly? Can I do this? He, in fact, even started earning money, right? He said, a part of this. So, for example, he runs a library in our building and he has members. So, and he has deposits. So, he has to keep account of all of that. Who takes how many books, returns when, all of that. So, he keeps a tab on all of that. And from his earnings, and I'm so proud to say this, from his earnings also, he has marked some money for charity. So, he's not marked what he has to spend. For always he's like, I don't want to spend, this is for charity. First he's put that side, and then he's like, okay, if I have to buy something, me and my friends will buy this, I'll buy this for my friends. So it's also about a lot of those conversations and not being selfish. Or for example, for his birthday, I said, his birthday is coming next week, right? So he'll be 13 next week. So we talk about what's the budget of the party, how many people to invite, where should we go, what gifts does he want, what return gifts. So the whole aspect of budgeting, he's not overwhelmed by the numbers or anything, right? He's just like, okay, no, but I want to cut this budget. I'm like, why would you want to cut this budget? It's your 13th birthday, so I want this as my budget. So budget is not negotiable. Then it's like, okay, so then can you invest this much from my budget? I want to spend only so much. So, that whole thought process itself changes. And I think one of the ways for children not to get overwhelmed with money is just to make sure that you are involving them in decisions. While I would want to give him the world, at 13, he's very clear. I want 2 items. I do not want more than this. And he's very clear with me saying, you will go overboard. I know. Please do not go overboard. And I'm like, this is your 13th. I'm going overboard. Rest is up to you. He's like, okay, fine. I accept you're going to go overboard. So it's a fun way for them to also be involved, but not overwhelmed. I think sometimes we overwhelm. We also underestimate our kids a lot of times. So we don't share with them, for example, okay, these fruits cost so much, right? Saying, okay, this particular apple costs so much, or versus a banana per kg costs so much. We don't want them to feel that guilt of, food, right? So whatever level it is. So at that point, you have to make sure that you're not overwhelming them or putting it on them, saying, this is so expensive. So that is why you have to give them a little bit of that transparency and not overwhelm them. So it's a regular aspect, because if you do this once, they're going to definitely be overwhelmed. But if you're going to do this on a month-on-month basis, you will see that you're now getting to see their participation. Parents, I think one big mistake that we do is we first start off that conversation with them. We see them a little overwhelmed. Of course, they will be overwhelmed the first time, and then we stop. If we continue, see this for 3 months, 6 months, a year, then we'll see the real input from them, and they will also start taking ownership. While I don't want my son to work hard and earn today, of course that's a great thing. I'm not putting that pressure on him, but he feels a responsibility, and he feels really proud of himself that he makes that money, and he's very happy to spend it in a particular way. For example, for gifts for parents, grandparents, he's doing his own decisions. Of course, he's informing me, he's involving me, but the money is his. So he is totally empowered with that. So I think that's a continuity is another thing that we definitely as parents have to keep it. And I think the last thing would be setting examples for them. We can't say one thing and do another. So that much more pressure on us, I would say, than them.
Right. So, Mr. Trivedi.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of things to what Shweta was beautifully articulating. In teaching your children about money, you need to do an SIP. It's not a one-time effort. You need to keep doing it on a regular basis. So that's it's a brilliant point. And a lot of times, as parents, we make this mistake, and especially when it comes to kids. The moment I put an effort and it doesn't work, and I stop there, kid would take that as a lesson that, okay, if something doesn't work, you change the course. That's not, I mean, we know that that's not how life should be, right? So that's number one. Number two, I'm really impressed by Ishan's story of running that library and earning money, uh, and then saving out of it or putting it for charity. When my daughter was in college, she also got some opportunities to get involved in some projects with the faculty. So my only condition to her was, do whatever you do want with the 50% of the money, but if other 50% must be invested. And you know what? While she was in the graduate school, she saved some money. Some part of it is still invested and she's not touched. So I said 50%, she actually around 35 to 40%. That's a good impressive start. I mean, even if you can't reach that 50% target, you formed a habit. And that habit goes a long way because in just July she started working. And I said, and she's in Bangalore, so a different city. So I said, take a few months to settle down. And this month onwards, November onwards, her SIP has started. First check is already gone. So you got to do those conversations and you got to ensure that those conversations are taken to logical conclusion. And once she gets into that habit, and of course, she's got a financial advisor also to help. And I've told both of them that only when there is a dispute or a problem, you come to me. Otherwise, I'm not involved in her finances. It is her responsibility. Because eventually, she has to live with the results. The consequences are to be faced by her, not me. I can provide safety net, but that's all that I can do. Eventually, it's her life. And that's where the empowerment becomes important.
Right, right. So I think we've had a very, very interesting conversation. Everybody has highlighted all the, the main points and the most pertinent points of this discussion. And so I think it's quite apt to close the discussion with the question which anyone of you can take is that how can you use mutual funds and investments for children's education planning? Of course, we as parents, the way we have discussed, we'll kind of ready them for their future financial habits and how they lead their financial lives. But as parents, how can we build that corpus? Like we started the discussion with that is the closest goal to most parents' heart of saving for the future of their children.
Sweta can take this in a better way because she was doing a lot of planning for many parents, apart from doing for no Ishan on this way. And looking at the stories of Ishan and looking at Amit Trivedi's daughter, for me, this kids looks like an acronym for both of them. Got a wonderful kids. I mean, then that KIDS could be knowledge of investment with a discipline of savings.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rao. I think I will come to you in case I have any trouble forming acronyms for sure. You seem to be do this on the fly and really good ones. So yes, we do help parents plan for their children's goals, and I think one of the best ways to do this is to just start. A lot of times parents think that when the child is 10 we'll start or 5 we'll start or whatever, when we have 10,000 we'll start, or when we have 15,000 we'll start. But I think one of the first steps is to just start. Just start with 1,000 rupees, just start with 500 rupees. Mutual funds is it's such a great option because it's got so much versatility, whether it's one time, whether it's continuous, whether it's small amount, big amount, long term, short term. You have options for everything. So if there are parents who have older children and don't have too much time, you can still invest for short term and make sure that money still grows a little bit and you don't use it for something else. I think one hack that I usually share with parents is that invest in your children's name. You won't touch it for anything else except for their goals, because that's what I have been doing. Anything that becomes in my name, it's easily spent. And I don't hesitate in withdrawing it, whether it's to buy the house or whether it's to buy the car. I don't hesitate. But even if I earmarked it for retirement, but when it comes to the kids, if it's in their name, it's not being touched, right? So it is for their and their own education. It also shows the kids how much focus and effort that we're putting in. They really appreciate it. So not the pressure part, but the appreciation part, I think, is definitely there. So making sure that you're investing regularly teaches them also how they can do this small steps but continuously, that nothing happens in one day. whether you're having that conversation with them sooner or later, they will learn that, you're doing this regularly, you've been doing this for many, many years. So all of this sort of shapes their personality, and their relationship with money, becomes really, really important. I think Amit, the way he mentioned that, he made his daughter go through that whole process of, taking the loan, but then take the loan, made sure that his daughter actually appreciated that they have put in so much effort. The parents have put in so much effort and saved so much for her and her education, things that will give her that little boost in life that we want for our kids, right? And with that experience, I think she not only appreciated that, she also understood how difficult it is to actually get to something, right? Because otherwise, we make it very easy for our kids, right? We make it seem very easy, like it's effortless, but it's really a lot of hard work. So our kids should somewhere see that hard work. I don't think we should hide that from our kids. They should see that we work hard for them, and that is what will shape them. So when you show mutual funds those statements where they have invested, in fact, I know of some older kids now who, clients' children, who actually see the portfolios and say, "Can I also invest personally in them?" Said, "Why not?" So the parents have actually set money aside for those, and they track the portfolios more closely than me and see what has been bought, what has been sold, why has that been bought. So initially it started off with, I like this stock name, can I buy this and keep? Because see, the fund manager has done research, so can I also buy? They said, buy a little amount, right? And then they see that has been sold. Now, why has that been sold? So then why was it bought in the first place? So the whole education, whether it is gamification, whether it is just taking that to one step further, I think helps a lot. Their involvement, their understanding. So I think mutual funds, other than being a great option for us to, as a vehicle to invest, is such a great learning for us, right? Whether it's listening to fund manager commentaries, whether it's having those fund manager meetings, seeing those interviews, I think you learn so much, and not just about investments, about life, about how they don't give into temptation. They don't invest based on just astronomy, right? They are doing their research, or because they like a name. Sometimes they've heard fund managers say, okay, when you're using this product, maybe it's a great investment, so they've gone ahead and tried that. And they come back to me with feedback saying, okay, I tried this and I really liked it, this idea, so I made this idea also, so what do you think? So that whole discussion is now very different with them versus, please do not buy an Amazon sale. Please save that money. Please make sure that you're investing. Please save for your future. There is delayed gratification. Don't take that short-term loan. Or from that, the conversations have moved much further. Of course, we have these conversations with the new investors about, loan versus funding, or EMI versus renting. I think these are fantastic conversations to have. But when you're talking about mutual funds, and how they invest and how they're helping you grow. So when they see their parents' portfolio and return being, portfolio being, say, 3 times what invested amount is, or 4 times, they really understand the value of time. They really understand the value of consistency. They understand the value of discipline. And I think nothing else can teach them that. So it's a great place for them to start. And with kids, they can do the SIP of 1,000 rupees, 500 rupees, right, from their own accounts today, and see how their whole experience is. So we are actually just fast forwarding their learning, and maybe starting many more Warren Buffets right here from India.
Okay, thank you so much, Shweta, for that interesting relationship between mutual funds and developing a relationship with money that children can do with this kind of instrument. So thank you to all of you for such a lively discussion on which will, I'm sure, help a lot of parents work out the conversations they're going to have with their children, and also get over the challenges that come along the way. Thanks a lot. Good day to all of you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
Nidhi,
much.
and thanks, Shweta. Thanks, Amit, for fantastic. Nidhi, if you don't mind, can I sum it up in one acronym of all the session we had now?
Of course, of course.
Yes,
Please go
Like
ahead.
probably, I mean, since you said teaching the kids, I thought the way these two speakers, they spoke so lively, that is the teach, T-E-A-C-H. One is what you teach your child is a teach, right? Thinking ahead. And E is your earning, and how you can have earn and save. And A is you're appreciating the value of the values, which this both of them spoke about.
Hmm.
And C is how you can create a budget, and H is she spoke a lot about Ishan giving to the charity and helping others. That is a TACH about the kids and the money.
That's a great
Super,
acronym.
super.
Sums it up perfectly. And on that note, thank you so much, all of you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.